You said earlier that Trump is selecting all these basically terrible neocons, that Trump doesn't even pretend to want to kind of do things like get humanitarian aid to Gaza. And that's all true. At the same time, there clearly is two different types of Trump nominees. One is the type that the establishment, Democrats, the media, not just are comfortable with, but love. Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Elise Stefanik as the U.S. Ambassador to UN, basically a clone of Nikki Haley and Liz Cheney. Kristi Noem at Homeland Security, no one cares about that. No one's talking about that. Everyone's fine with that. So you have this group of people who are like the kinds of people who typically get chosen for these positions who you would expect to see in a normal Republican administration that just, Ron DeSantis or Mitt Romney or whomever. But then you have these very out of the beaten path kinds of choices, and these are the ones that are causing the most upset among establishment factions, like Tulsi Gabbard as DNI, Pete Hegseth as Pentagon Secretary, obviously Matt Gaetz, RFK Jr. Now, the one thing they all have in common, every last one of them, it's like the entry price for admission, which I would agree with you on, is they're all fanatically pro-Israel. All of them, every last one of them. No dissent of any kind. But it does seem like, and this is, I guess, my argument that I would make against this certainty that Trump will just be this kind of hawk and warmonger and neocon, is that although I think it's very possible for a lot of different reasons, Trump just has an inherent unpredictability that creates potential, at least, for things to break. Like Seymour Hersh wrote, and Jeremy Scahill cited this, that Trump is like a circuit breaker, that he just kind of gets in there and like all the circuits just go haywire. And it kind of everything, the train goes off the tracks. Whereas with Kamala, there'd be zero unpredictability. You would know exactly who would occupy these positions. They would continue everything as is. It would be the ultimate perpetuation of the status quo, perpetuation of the status quo. Does that give you any hope at all? I'm not saying it's guaranteed. I could absolutely see Trump getting the U.S. into wars, given the people who he's going to be listening to and who are surrounding him. But the thing that I hold out hope for is that aspect, that attribute of Trump, and on top of which I think he prides himself in getting deals done, like resolving disputes by getting deals done that he would get the credit for. What do you think about all that? Where the foreign policy is likely to go?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. At least with Trump, there is some air of like autonomy to him. Like there's something like, and Donald Trump, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to, paint a rosier picture than there is. Donald Trump, has never struck me as a deep thinker. I'm not saying he's read a lot of books and really has a deep understanding of any particular policy, but he is kind of just a boss. That's who he's been his whole life. He kind of has the attitude, unlike Kamala Harris, where she kind of just knows she has to play this game so she gets her next position. And, he has some actual ideas. And so you never know. And he's also just, like you said, unpredictable. So you never know exactly what he might do. You never know who of the people around him are going to be gone in 3 months. And then he's going to be telling you how stupid and little they were and then bring someone completely different in. There's just a lot of question marks there. And of course, you're absolutely right that there is no, air on Israel. Every single one of them is bad on that topic. But there are really important areas where like someone like Tulsi Gabbard is a lot different than the standard Washington politician. And I mean, she really was heroic on Syria. She's been great on Ukraine. She's been great, on the nature of the war in Iraq and our endless support of Saudi Arabia. There's a lot of areas, and particularly one thing I really, I was listening to you and Tucker's podcast, and it was great, by the way. But the one part where you guys were talking about, like, the threat of nuclear wars, we talked about today too. I mean, Tulsi really should get a lot of credit. I remember in 2020, when she was on the debate stage, whenever she'd be asked what her most important issue is, she'd always say nuclear war. And this was before Vladimir Putin had invaded Ukraine, but it was after we had framed him for overthrowing our democracy and all that. And she just kept, and I was like rooting for her because she's the anti-war candidate and I wanted her to do well. But I remember thinking like, oh, you're going to come off a little goofy if you say it like that. Like that kind of sounds like, come on, nuclear war is not going to happen. But just like to your point where this used to be a real fear of Americans and now it's kind of not. And she was up there saying, no, this is something we really need to be concerned about. And not that we've gone to nuclear war since then, but that concern certainly aged very well. And just someone with that mentality in there, it's like, oh, it might be interesting. It might be interesting. I kind of trust that, like, if Tulsi's the head of the intelligence, community, and she finds out that the government's doing some wildly corrupt thing, she might have a problem with that. And you just weren't going to get anyone like that under Kamala Harris, and even Pete Hegseth. And I know he's not good on Israel, but he's said some great things about Ukraine. And given the threat of nuclear war, it's pretty important to be good on that. I don't mean to like sell out the Palestinian people, but all of these things are important. And obviously Bobby Kennedy, while a lot of people may have, be triggered by him, he's a real outsider to the corruption of the big pharmaceutical companies and kind of the healthcare system in this country in general. And I think Matt Gaetz, who's out now too, but he's at least putting some outsiders in there. And again, that's just, unfortunately, maybe the state of modern American politics, but that's better than we were going to get with anyone else, I think, including any other Republican if they had won, or any other Democrat besides Kamala Harris. The only person who plausibly could have won and would maybe give us some picks like that is Donald Trump right now.
Yeah, that's the thing that gives me hope too. And even with Israel, I'm not saying, he's very indebted to Miriam Adelson, who gave him $100 million. I think they really was a big effort. They wanted to get Ron DeSantis as the GOP nominee. That was their favorite one. But once he was clear Trump was going to win, they did everything possible to make sure that he was going to be put in this corner where he would be a fanatical devotee of Israel. He even said things like, I'm going to make Israel great again. If I win, we're going to make Israel great again. We're going to make the United States great again. But still, he's expressed some kind of personal frustration with Netanyahu before. He wants this war over. Yeah. And I think, like, to your point about, I have to say, like, one of the things that surprised me when I started doing the Snowden reporting is a lot of the people who were emailing me to say how supportive they were of this reporting were people in the military, people in the intelligence agencies, people who had been to war, because they know better than anybody the realities of these kinds of conflicts, how corrupting our foreign policy is, how, just poorly arranged it is, how many lies are being told. And I think the fact that Tulsi Gabbard actually went and fought in these wars makes her more sensitive to these risks. And I've noticed as well that Trump, whenever he talks about nuclear weapons, you can see this kind of like fear that he had obviously instilled in him from whatever briefings he got, where he talks about people don't understand how dangerous these weapons are. It makes, Nagasaki and Hiroshima seem like child's play. He talks in that way, like he's very petrified of it. And so that's the thing that gives me a little hope. All right, before I let you go, just one last thing. I don't know if you had time yet to see anything about Pam Bondi. She just got announced as Matt Gaetz' replacement, so if you don't have any views on her, okay, well, I don't have many either, none that I want to share, so I wonder if you did,
yeah,
so we'll save that for another time. Yeah, it just happened like 10 seconds ago, so I wanted to show that I had the same ignorance as you did. All right, Dave, it was really great to see you. I totally enjoyed this conversation as much as I thought it would. I'm sure our audience did as well. We'd love to have you back on. I'm going to invite myself back on your show shortly as well. So thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Great to see you. All right.
Glenn, you are a legend. You are welcome anytime on my show. Thank you so much for having me.
All right,
again.
Dave. Have a great evening. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.